Hey, this is Reid's Reviews. Today, let's check out this RC1 loop station by Boss. When I first saw this, I thought, cool, hey, I would like to have a simple looper. I also kind of thought that maybe this is the first looper that Boss did because it is so simple. I read a little bit more about it and found that it was actually released in 2014. And the first looper pedal that Boss did was in 2001, and that was actually the RC20. They wanted a looper that was simple, easy to use, not necessarily just an entry level looper, but one that's small, compact, and doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles that some of the others do. It's simplified. And I've got to be honest with you, I think that the simplified looper is awesome because it helps to kind of maintain, maybe a creative level. Where sometimes when you get into something that has tons of features, you get confused and it's like overwhelming. There are no additional effects. There are no rhythm settings. The more sophisticated loopers, they do something called quantize, which is, you put in the beats per measure that you want. So if you wanted 4/4, you would put that in. And then you'll play a measure. And when you hit stop, if you're not perfect with the timing, it will try and adjust it for you. This will not do that. This will just basically stop when you tell it to stop. So it's kind of counting on you being very precise. It's just record and stop, and one loop is recorded. You can overdub, of course, on top of that. You can delete it. A couple of the things that you can configure. It's kind of like, okay, well, how can I configure anything? There are no buttons. Well, to do that, you would unplug this, hold down the foot switch, plug it back in, and let me explain to you what these lights here mean and what they can configure. The red is what happens when you're recording a loop and then you depress the foot switch. It can either go directly into overdub, so whatever you play next will just be laid on top of your first recording, or you can have it go immediately into playback. It defaults to immediately going into overdub, and the default is actually having the red on the top. I like it to go immediately into playback, like you jam a little bit, and then when I want to, put in an overdub by depressing the foot switch. In order to get the red lights to move up, you just go ahead and you double click. Okay. Up is telling it to go immediately to overdub when you depress the foot switch when it's recording. Down is to have it go immediately into playback. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Now, these lights, when they're red, you're configuring what happens when you're recording and you depress the foot switch. If you change these to green, it's going to tell you what happens when you're playing back a loop and you depress the foot switch. In order to get it to change colors, I'll just go ahead and depress once. Tells me where it's set at. This is the default setting because it's at the top half. And the default is when you're playing back a loop and you depress the foot switch, it will immediately stop. If I bring these lights to the bottom, double clicking, then what this will do is when I'm playing back and I depress the foot switch, it will complete the phrase, then stop. And something that's important to note too is then it will delete that phrase. If you want to be able to record something and play it again later, you're going to want the green up top. The other configuration item is when they're both red and green. And this is the display mode of the LED itself, how it behaves when you're playing stuff back. The top is the default. The dial is basically kind of like a clock. You can think of it like with a ticker that goes around, and when it completes, that's the end of the loop. And then it will start again. If I bring these down onto the bottom, it's a little bit busier of a display. It will flash all of the LEDs, and then you'll see two LEDs the next, in a subsequent flash that will kind of tell you where you're at in the loop. All right, so let's go ahead and save this to memory. My configuration items, I'll go ahead and pull that out, push it back in, not pushing down on the pedal. There we go. All right, so if I want to record something, I'll just go ahead and push this down. Okay. Now if I wanted to do an overdub, I would press it again. You'll see them lit up together. Now I'll play back. If I want it to stop, I'll just go ahead and double click. Okay, there we go. If I wanted to delete it, I would then push down, hold it for 2 seconds, and it's deleted. You can do that when you're recording as well. Push it down for 2 seconds, deletes it. Now, if you've got a track and an overdub laid down, and you hold this down, I'm going to do an overdub. Now, if I want to delete the overdub, similar to just deleting the track, I'll hold this down. Now it's just the original loop. If I want to bring the overdub back that I just deleted, the very last one, do the same thing. Hold this down, bring it back in. Okay, so then I'll stop this, and I'm going to delete it by holding this down. There we go. Now, something that's important to note is you can't bring it back. You can't bring the bass track back if you delete it. By holding this down, it won't work. When you push this down again, it's just going to go directly into the record mode. You can't get it to come back. So you can only bring back overdubs. This is simple, but at the same time, it's refreshing. It's nice. It doesn't take up a lot of space on your pedal board, and it can kind of help you kind of stay creative and not get overwhelmed, I guess, by some of the other features that come in the other loopers. So I do recommend it, especially if you're looking for that kind of a looper. It's not just for people that are starting to use looper for the first time. I think it's just the use case is got to be one that you want, and then it's a very solid, well-built, nice looper. Hey, if you're into guitars and you love effects, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm constantly reviewing new and old pedals, and when I do, you'll be the first to know. Hopefully this helps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.